Great, written by Ellen Williams. The priest is born in Macedonia more than 2,300 years ago. A priest was born in the Greek state of Macedonia. The priest grew up to be a powerful king. Alexander the Great became known as the greatest leader the world had ever seen by conquering nations and kingdoms in land, near and far from Greece. Not only the violent oppressions, but they also forcing his culture on those he overpowered. Alexander was well educated and developing a thirst for knowledge, a sign how wanting to grow his empire and gain power. Some historians think that curiosity may have played a part in Alexander's rise. To go further than any Macedonian had gone before, his kingdom would include parts of Europe, Africa, and Asia. A leader in training. Alexander's story begins with his father, King Philip. The title of king is usually handed down from father to son. Philip took the throne from his yellow nephew to become king of Macedonia with a strong will and the support of a fierce army. Philip ensured that Macedonia had the surrounding Greek state were under his control. Alexander's mother, Olympias, was determined that her son would be king one day, that her position would be secured. Alexander's greatness was in a large part due to having inherited a drive for power from both of his parents. He was so smart as a young boy. When he was 12 years old, his father refused to buy a beautiful but nervous horse. Alexander noticed that the horse was frightened by its own shadow. He calmed it down by turning his head away from the shadow. Alexander was able to control the horse and ride it easily. The horse, Bersel's self-owners, was important to Alexander for the rest of his life. When Alexander was growing up, his father was often away, so Philip hired teachers to prepare his son to be king. Young noblemen of Greece learned to ride horses and hunt, as well as to fight with swords, javelins, and bow. Alexander and his boyhood friends would need to be prepared for the first battle they were destined to fight. As Alexander grew older, he passed the Macedonian test of the manhood by killing a wild boar and killing a man in combat. As part of his education and training, Alexander studied with a philosopher named Aristotle. Respect for his knowledge. Aristotle helped Alexander understand and value the culture and art. In addition to teaching him science, philosophy, history, politics, and ethics, Aristotle inspired Alexander's love of reading and learning itself. Becoming king, the Persian Empire controlled much of Asia and was an enemy of Greece. Year before Persia destroyed Greek cities in Asia Minor and took control of the area. Philip wanted to fight the Persians to regain control and conquer Asia. Alexander was still young when he began taking on leadership duty. At 16, he saw a small revolution while Philip was away. Alexander commanded troops in some of his father's battles as a teenager. Alexander was raised to be king, but then Philip married another woman. Alexander's mother was not a pure Macedonian. If Philip had a baby with his new wife, a Macedonian, Alexander would not be chosen here. The new queen has a daughter. In 336 BC, Philip was killed soon the baby was born. Not much after Alexander's mother had the baby her mother killed, leaving Alexander to become king. Alexander immediately wrote his father's army. Like his father, he wanted to conquer Asia, but he needed more than just a strong army. He also needed the people's support. Most Greek cities supported Macedonia, but some had not approved of Philip. Now that his son was in charge, they were wary of him too, yet they fought back to keep Alexander from running Greece and conquering Persia. Alexander managed to gain the support of many Greek states. The persuasion often accompanied by force. Some of the Greek states and territories around Macedonia still opposed. Alexander wanted to rebel, but his army crushed them. As a leader, Alexander was merciless, making an example of slavery. The extreme punishment guaranteed submission of the Greek city-states. A year after becoming king, Alexander was ready to expand Macedonian control beyond Greece. The journey begins. Alexander strengthened his troops with equipment including body armor, shield, helmets, daggers, and enormous spears. He increased the number of cavalry and sent foot soldiers in a strong formation called phalanx that would follow a cavalry and crush any enemy soldier left standing. Alexander was a strong leader, able to share his vision and rally his troops. He led by example, always going to the battle in front of his men and standing by them when the things got rough. He had good instinct that allowed him to know how, when, and where to attack. Alexander left for Asia Minor, now Turkey, in the spring of 334 BC. When he arrived, he boldly threw his spears to the ground, claiming the land for himself. Soon after, Alexander had his first battle with the Persian army at the Granish River. The Persian king, Darius III, was there to lead. Both armies were well-trained with foot soldiers and cavalry, but the Persians were less prepared until the Macedonians. During the bloody hour-long battle, Alexander narrowly escaped death. Alexander's army moved along the Aegean Sea, taking back Greek city-states and brutally fighting those who resisted. In 333 BC, in the Battle of Issu, Alexander again met a larger Persian army, this time with Darius. The Persians still lost the fought battle, although Darius escaped frustrated that didn't capture Darius. Alexander headed south to conquer the Persian fleet by capturing cities along the Mediterranean Sea. What is today Syria and Lebanon? Some cities surrendered, but in 332 BC, the city of Tyre resisted for 7 months before it was brutally defeated. With Tyre captured, Alexander continued with the Mediterranean coast and arrived in Egypt later. In 332, the Persian ruler stepped down. Alexander had respect for Egyptian religions and appointed Egyptian governors. Egypt welcomed him as the starting plan for the city of Alexandria. Alexander moved east toward the other section of the Persian Empire in Asia, conquering Asia. Alexander traveled east of Asia Minor, Iraq today, in 331 BC and met Darius in the Battle of Congamel. Darius had rebuilt his large army, but Alexander's army overpowered them. Darius fled in defeat, along with much of his army. Alexander moved further into the Persian Empire, conquering cities, exploring Persian ways, and trying to capture Darius before he could reach him. Darius was killed in 330 BC by a man who Alexander later executed. Alexander was now considered king of Persia. Far from his home in Macedonia, Alexander started transforming his lifestyle to include Persian custom. He married two local princesses and began to expect Macedonians to honor him with low bows, as Perseus did. Many Macedonians did not like Alexander's new behavior. Other soldiers followed Alexander's lead and married Persian women. His army was exhausted, but Alexander managed to convince him to move farther east to what he knew was India, Pakistan, and Afghanistan today. In 326 BC, Alexander sought Paris, a leader who resisted him. Alexander met Porus troops at the Hypidas River. Soldiers of this area used elephants in battle. Porus' elephants have done some damage to the Greeks, eventually panicked due to the intensity of the fight and retreat. Porus surrendered to Alexander. It was Alexander's last big battle. There was great unrest among his soldiers, able to convince them to go any further. He agreed to turn back, made it to Babylon, where he came down with fever in the spring of 323 BC. He died there in the June of that year. The legacy of Alexander. Alexander was undoubtedly a powerful man and an exceptional leader. His empire included parts of Europe, Asia, and Africa. Alexander was also savage. The number of people killed under his rule was close to 750,000. However, Alexander's conquests were not just about controlling people and land. He explored the history and the custom of all the places he traveled. Alexander became a model for a generation of leaders who followed. He opened doors of knowledge about the places he traveled and learned about new religions and government. He also forced Greek ways upon he conquered, setting the stage for future conquerors who took over land and forced their culture of indigenous people. While he is known as Alexander the Great, it certainly wasn't viewed by the way those he vanished. In 15 years of conquest, Alexander never lost a battle. The world had never seen a military genius that matched Alexander's ability.